Did I just cut myself? Hello, welcome back to Learning Curves. I'm Anastasia, and today we are going to make a little video for 5 years ago, Anastasia, all about rotary cutting tools. It's probably been more than 5 years. When I first got a rotary cutting tool, I thought I was going to save so much time, and I did end up getting there, but in the beginning, things took a lot longer than I thought they would. I'm going to share with you the 2 main issues that I ran into a lot in the beginning, one of which can be pretty expensive, and what I do now to prevent those issues happening and or address them. We're also going to change the blade on this, which I've literally never done. I'll have links in the description box to the items that I use. And at the end, I have some questions for you about upcoming content. If you like what you see in this video, please consider subscribing and tell your friends. That's weird. Okay, let's dive in. This is my rotary cutting tool. So you can see the big silver circular blade, and it is sitting on an area that I'm calling the sheath. It doesn't completely cover it, but when the tool is locked, the trigger doesn't work, so the blade can't come out. So when you see it here, I'm squeezing the trigger, nothing's happening. When you push this red button, that's the locking piece, when you push it through to the other side and then squeeze the trigger again, the blade comes out. So the circles on the back and on the front help the blade to move back and forth from like the sort of sheathed to unsheathed positions. And they hold the blade in place securely while still allowing it to rotate a la a pizza cutter. And that's how it works. So you need to know how to lock and unlock your blade for safety purposes. And then you need to squeeze the trigger so that the blade can actually do the cutting. And then you just aim and push down. So when you're using a rotary cutter, there are traditionally 2 other pieces of equipment that you need: a self-healing mat and a thick transparent ruler. There are thinner transparent rulers that I also enjoy using for other purposes, but you're using the ruler as a guide for your blade. So if the ruler is too thin that your blade might go over the ruler, then you might also cut your hand. So it's dangerous. Side note, do not store this thing laying on its side. It will warp and make it so much more difficult to use. These are expensive. They're expensive, and I threw one away because I could not use the warped one and I had to buy a new one. I store my rulers and mat on command hooks on the back of the door to my shop. When it comes to measuring my cuts, I always use the ruler as a guide, and sometimes I also use the mat. So sometimes I just use the mat as a safety surface, but sometimes I also use the measurements on the mat. For instance, here I'm cutting fabric that I know there's a lot of, like, this is not a great fabric for on video. I did not know that when I was shooting this. I'm so sorry. But here, since the fabric isn't too wide, I can see across this mat where it goes from 10 to 10. I can ensure that I am along that line on my mat. A lot of times I'll just make sure that my ruler is aligned on the fabric. Because it's transparent, you can see the straight of grain in there, if that's a thing on your fabric. So I can be looking through these sort of like sights, right? These crosshairs on the ruler to make sure that my fabric is aligned as I need it to be. So the 2 main issues I run into using a rotary cutter are 1, the fabric not getting cut the whole way through. We'll get to that. And 2, the ruler moving while I'm cutting. So let's discuss the causes and fixes for each. As far as the fabric not cutting the whole way through, this might not sound like that big of a deal because you can just like go back and cut it, right? Well, in situations where I'm not marking my pattern on my fabric, which happens a lot when I'm using the rotary cutter because I know I'm just cutting a straight line and the ruler works as my measuring device, right? So I don't always, in fact, I often do not mark the fabric when I'm using a rotary cutter. So if I line my ruler up exactly where I want to make my cut, that becomes my fabric marking, the placement of the ruler, and then I push down very hard. We'll get to that. You don't have to necessarily, but I push down very hard and roll my cutter along the ruler. If it doesn't cut the whole way through and I move the ruler, I've lost where my markings, right? Because the ruler was my marking. So the first thing you can do to fix this is change your blade. I changed my blade for the first time the other day, yesterday, filming this video. I was so angry. I mean, it was fine, but it was like the amount of time that I have spent, the amount of headaches I have had from using a dull blade, I did not realize. Ugh, whatever. The blade has changed. I know. Like, I'm not going to run into this issue too much anymore. So use a sharp blade. Okay? So if you don't have a sharp blade, to prevent having this issue where you lose your fabric markings and the fabric has not cut the whole way through, make sure that when you have your ruler in place, you press down super hard on the ruler, and after you cut, do not assume that your cut was successful. Gently test moving the fabric before you move your ruler, and do not pull hard on your fabric. Then if you have any unsevered fibers, you can go back over those and ensure the pieces are separated before moving your ruler. If you do have a super sharp blade and you're still running into this issue, it could be that your fabric is very thick or tough, but you'll probably already know that if that's the case. Or it could be that you're not pressing down hard enough as you cut. So maybe just go forward a little more there, babe. You got this. Okay, now let's talk about the worst. This is what can be expensive. Because you are using your ruler as a guide, your blade should be pressing up snugly against your ruler. Well, if you also don't have the ruler pressed down firmly enough, then as your blade gets to that part where it's not pressed down, the ruler's gonna move. And then you're gonna cut into the fabric that you didn't mean to cut into. And if you have a limited amount of fabric, or it's a very expensive fabric, or any of the things, very dangerous. So what you need to do is make sure that you are pressing firmly on the ruler all along the area that you are cutting. Sometimes this means that you can't make very long cuts without moving your hand on the ruler. I will often lay my whole arm down on the ruler, or at least spread my fingers wide and, try to distribute the pressure down on the ruler. But I also found when I changed my blade that this solved a lot of those issues for me because I didn't need to press as firmly with my blade, which means my ruler wasn't as liable to be pushed around. The whole lesson of this video is actually, to me, to change my blades. None of these things are issues if you just have a fresh blade. Change your blade! Okay. The biggest thing I recommend you do when you're starting out is make sure that the fabric that is under your ruler is the fabric you are going to discard. What will be the trash, the scrap, should be what is under your ruler in the beginning. Or just go real slow. Real slow. So I did change the blade. This is not going to become a how to change the blade tutorial because this is the first time I've ever done it. I didn't watch a video. There were no directions on the package. So I filmed it so that if I forgot which piece went where, which direction, I could go back and check the footage, but also so I could show you. But I just made sure that I was mindful as I took it apart and very careful not to slice my hand open, and then reassembled it the same way that I had taken it apart. And that's it. Then cutting was honestly, it was offensive how easy it was. It was so simple afterwards. I'm mad about it. That's it. I hope you learned some new helpful tricks. I hope that this saves you money and time that I will never get back. Upcoming content. I've got 2 requests for you. One is a sort of open-ended and one is more specific. Open-ended question. Is there something that I have yet to teach that you would like me to teach you? One of the things one of my sisters talked about was hemming pants. I do have some super cute baggy pants that as soon as I figure out how to actually pin them on myself, I can totally teach you how to do that. There's a very simple hand sewing technique that it takes a little getting used to, but you can totally do it. So I'm thinking maybe how to hem pants. But what else? What do you want to learn? Tell me. I would love to make you, not internet person, you, specifically you. If you were thinking, is she talking to me? She is, I am. You can, if you don't want to put it in the comments, if you're feeling shy, totally get that. You can email me at learningcurveslady@gmail.com. I would really love to hear from you. So question 2, I want to make a beach tote. I want to make a new beach tote for myself. I thought it might be a project we could make together. I made another one previously. I'm going to insert some footage here. And I like that one a lot. This will be kind of similar to that. I'm going to improve the dimensions, add some more pockets, kind of improve the functionality, add a closure across the big top part. And my thought is I can throw it all in one video. I can make it and cut it down and put it all in one video. But my thought is it's going to be better off as a series of 4, it's just going to be a lot. You know what I mean? It's going to be a lot of information. It would be a really long single video. So we've got a few options. I can do a very in-depth, step-by-step, how we've been kind of doing. Or I can do, these are the pieces, the sizes you cut of interfacing. These are the sizes you cut of fabric A, fabric B. These are the notions you need. Step 1, sew this. Step 2, sew that. But is that going to be as helpful since this has been mostly for new sewers, So if you are the one person who's interested in making a beach tote with me, please let me know what it is that you would like. Again, you can email me at learningcurveslady@gmail.com, or you can put it in the comments. You can't put it in the description box. I always say that. I'm just put it in the description box. I put things in the description box. You put things in the comments. So far, you guys have been putting really nice things in the comments. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it. Times have been tough. Anyway, if it doesn't make any difference to you and you are looking to add any of these tools to your arsenal, to your toolbox, it helps me a lot if you use the affiliate links in the description box. You can totally buy them from wherever works for you, but I do get a small commission on that with no added cost to you, but it would really help me. No pressure, just a request. I'm not mad at you if you don't do it. I'm not. Honest. If you like this video, please like this video. Please consider subscribing, and I'll see you next week. Bye!